Have you ever felt like you should be further along by now? Maybe you thought you would have your life figured out. You thought you would know exactly where you were going. You thought you would have healed from that experience by now. Maybe you believed that by this age, you should have the answers, the confidence, the peace, the career, the relationships, and the life you once imagined. But somehow, you're still figuring things out, still healing, still questioning, still trying to understand what happened. And maybe you're quietly wondering, why am I not over this yet? Why don't I have closure? Why do I still feel stuck? Why can't I just move on? If you've ever asked yourself those questions, I want you to hear this. You are not failing just because you're still healing. Growth doesn't always look like closure. Sometimes, growth looks like finally allowing yourself to breathe. Sometimes, healing isn't about finding one perfect answer that suddenly makes everything make sense. Sometimes, healing is simply learning how to live peacefully while some questions remain unanswered. And maybe that's where you are right now. Somewhere in between who you used to be and who you're becoming. And that in-between season can feel uncomfortable because you're no longer who you were, but you're not quite sure who you're becoming either. You're changing. Your priorities are changing. Your perspective is changing. The things you once tolerated don't feel acceptable anymore. The things you once chased may no longer matter. And the people you once felt connected to may no longer fit the person you're becoming. That can be lonely. It can even be confusing. But it doesn't mean you're lost. Sometimes it means you're growing. We live in a world that constantly tells us to keep moving, keep achieving, keep improving, keep producing, keep pushing, keep going. And while ambition has its place, there comes a time when constantly pushing yourself becomes exhausting. You don't always need another goal. You don't always need another solution. You don't always need to fix something. Sometimes, you simply need to pause. And there's nothing wrong with that. You are allowed to pause without feeling guilty. You're allowed to have a quiet day. You're allowed to take a breath. You're allowed to step away from the noise. You're allowed to admit that you're tired. You're allowed to say, I don't know what comes next, and still believe that something good is ahead. You don't have to have your entire life figured out today. Think about how much pressure we put on ourselves. We compare our lives to other people's timelines. Someone gets married. Someone buys a house. Someone gets promoted. Someone starts a successful business. Someone travels the world. Someone seems to have everything together. And suddenly, we look at our own lives and think, what's wrong with me? But here's something we often forget. You don't know what they're carrying. You don't know what they're struggling with. You don't know what happens after the picture is taken. And more importantly, their timeline was never supposed to be yours. Your journey is your own. Your healing is your own. Your timing is your own. And your story doesn't become less valuable because it took longer than you expected. Maybe you're in a season where you're rebuilding. Maybe you're recovering from disappointment. Maybe you're trying to rediscover yourself after spending years taking care of everyone else. Maybe you've spent so much of your life being strong for other people that you've forgotten what it feels like to simply be. You don't always have to be the strong one. You don't always have to have the answer. You don't always have to smile and say, I'm fine. Sometimes being honest with yourself is part of healing. Maybe today you're not fine. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're overwhelmed. Maybe you need space. And that's okay, because rest is not retreat. Taking a step back doesn't mean you've given up. Sometimes you need to stop running long enough to recognize where you're actually going. And space doesn't mean you're abandoning your dreams. Sometimes space gives you the clarity to understand which dreams are truly yours. And calm is not weakness. In fact, sometimes calm is wisdom in motion. When you've lived through enough disappointment, you begin to realize that not everything requires an immediate reaction. Not every unanswered message needs another message. Not every misunderstanding needs to be explained. Not every ending needs a dramatic conclusion. Not every person needs to understand your side of the story. And not every chapter needs closure before you can turn the page. Sometimes, you create your own closure by choosing peace. You stop waiting for someone to apologize. You stop waiting for someone to finally understand what they did. You stop waiting for the perfect explanation. You stop waiting for the past to become something different. And you say, I may never understand everything that happened, but I don't want to carry it anymore. That's healing. Not because the past suddenly disappeared, but because it no longer controls your present. And maybe that's what you need right now. Not another answer, not another explanation, not another person to validate your feelings. Maybe you need permission to let yourself breathe, to sit quietly, to feel what you feel, to stop pretending that you're not affected, to stop rushing yourself because you think you should already be okay. Healing isn't always a straight line. There may be days when you feel strong, and then there may be a day when something unexpectedly brings the old feelings back. That doesn't mean you went backward. It means you're human. Growth isn't about never struggling again. It's about learning how to respond differently when the struggle comes. Maybe before, you would have chased. Now you pause. Maybe before, you would have begged for an explanation. Now you choose peace. Maybe before, you would have blamed yourself. Now you give yourself grace. Maybe before, you would have ignored your exhaustion. Now you listen to your body and your heart. That's growth. It may not look dramatic. Nobody may applaud it. Nobody may even notice. But you will. Because deep inside, you'll recognize that you're becoming someone who no longer needs to force everything. You're learning to trust the process. You're learning that some things take time. You're learning that some answers arrive when you stop chasing them. And you're learning that peace doesn't always come when the story ends. Sometimes, peace is found in the stillness between the lines. So if you're in an uncertain season right now, please don't be so hard on yourself. You are allowed to be in between jobs, in between relationships, in between dreams, in between identities, in between chapters. You don't need to know exactly what the next chapter looks like before you finish living this one. Take today as it comes. Take the next step when you're ready. Rest when you need to rest. Cry when you need to cry. Pray when you need to pray. Sit quietly when you need silence. And when you don't know what to do next, don't confuse uncertainty with failure. Sometimes uncertainty is simply the space where something new is being formed. A seed doesn't look like a tree. A beginning doesn't look like the finished story. And your current season doesn't tell you the entire story of your life. So don't judge your future based on how you feel today. You may be closer to a breakthrough than you realize. You may be becoming stronger in ways you can't yet see. You may be learning lessons that will make sense later. And one day, you may look back at this season and realize, You weren't stuck. You were becoming. You weren't falling behind. You were being redirected. You weren't wasting time. You were learning how to slow down. You weren't losing yourself. You were finding your way back to yourself. So today, give yourself permission to breathe. Release the pressure to have everything figured out. Release the need to force closure. Release the belief that you must constantly prove that you're making progress. Your worth is not measured by how quickly you heal. Your value isn't determined by how much you accomplish. And your life isn't behind simply because it doesn't look like someone else's. You are still here. You are still learning. You are still growing. And that is enough for today. Maybe your next step isn't to push harder. Maybe your next step is to rest. Maybe it's to forgive yourself. Maybe it's to let go. Maybe it's to stop explaining yourself. Maybe it's to protect your peace. Maybe it's simply to wake up tomorrow and try again. Whatever it is, take it one seed at a time. You don't have to finish the entire journey today. You just have to keep moving when it's time to move, and allow yourself to rest when it's time to rest. Because growth doesn't always look like closure. Sometimes growth looks like peace. Sometimes healing looks like breathing. Sometimes strength looks like slowing down. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop forcing the story to end and simply allow yourself to live through the chapter you're in. So if you're sitting in an in-between season right now, remember this: you are not behind. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are becoming.